E for early days. Someone who was on board from very early days is Anne Hales. She joined UTV as a filing clerk 3 weeks before opening night.
We were all so very young. There was a great innocence about the people I worked with. I didn't know the management then, but certainly the workers on the ground, the studio personnel, the girls in the office. There's not very many of us. We were only about 35 or 36 when I started. And we were all very young, and we were a family, and then we became an extended family. And I think it's lovely that that feeling has never gone away. We're all still in touch, those original people. I started as a filing clerk. Very soon after that, I became a schedules clerk, which was a big step up, but I always wanted to be a production assistant. That's what Gloria was. She was the production assistant who would nip into the office with great big cans of film under her arms and say, "Party's at my flat tonight." I thought, oh, I want to be like that.
Being a production assistant was probably one of the most valuable things I could have done for my subsequent career. It taught me what was expected of television. Sometimes when I talk to the girls these days behind the scenes, they're quite amused by the idea that I know their job and I know what they're supposed to be doing and I know what can go wrong.
There are some new skills which most of us, whether famous or not, need to learn.
We got a tip, actually, that George had come over from Manchester to take his driving test. So I walk out with the mic and I say, "Congratulations, George, you're a driver."
Are you nervous when you appear on the pitch before thousands of people at the start of a game?
Well, I find I was more nervous today, you know, just with one man, but I managed it all right.
You managed, yeah. Fair enough, and congratulations.
Meeting some of the biggest names was all in a day's work for Maurice Smith. Sports heroes, politicians, rock stars.
The Stones came over to Belfast in 1965 and we heard they were in town, so down we go with the camera team to the theatre where they were rehearsing and we just burst in. They were very accommodating because they realised the value of publicity. So I lined them all up like chocolate soldiers because the producer said, we don't have much time in the editing room to get that on the air tonight. So I just talked to them one by one and especially remember talking to Mick Jagger because he by far was the best talker. He looked like he was about 14 then. His face was as smooth as a baby's bottom. But his face now looks like it could hold a shower of rain.
How do you compare your group with the Beatles?
I don't know. How do you compare it with the Beatles? I don't compare it at all, you know, there's no point.
Well, let's get right down to brass tacks. Do you think you're better than they are?
What? You know, it's not the same group, so we just do what we want and they do what they want, and there's no point in going on comparing us. You can prefer us to them or them to us. This is diplomatic, you see.
Very diplomatic, and I don't want to labour it, but do you feel you do what you want to do better than they do what they want to do?
Yes. Probably. I don't know. I don't know what they want to do, you see. Very diplomatic.
In those early days, what many viewers liked most about the new station was that it was part of the community.
UTV was very, very, very homegrown. It was very much our own. It didn't belong to any other big organisation outside of ourselves. And so I think there was something, wasn't there something more close up front and personal about UTV?
No, Mr. Dillon, he's past her new even, don't do it.
But for a young Frank Mitchell, it offered wide horizons and fanciful dreams.
Been expecting you.
My mother had a hairdryer, and it was one of those old-fashioned hairdryers that stood on a stem and came up and actually came over your head like so, like you see in a salon. And we had one of those in the house, and I used to, I didn't plug it in, but I would sit underneath it, pull it down over my head and watch Lost in Space, pretending I was a spaceman, an astronaut.
In its own early days, UTV was to provide the earliest example anywhere on ITV of a special kind of programming, adult education. The late-night series was called Midnight Oil.
Truth be told, it was extremely primitive stuff. Basically, it was 5 university lecturers and a blackboard and chalk. That was the original concept, and there wasn't a lot of structuring of scripts or preparing of additional visual material or anything like that. They were groundbreaking, but there was a lot more. There was a lot further to go. We then developed that idea the following year into a series called Inquiring Mind, where we did pay much more attention to making them more viewer friendly. So that was a real development.